Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Brandt, Chair of the HFMA Women in Leadership Committee, and on behalf of the committee, we're very pleased to be offering our 12th program, this one sponsored by Berkeley Research Group. It has been almost a year to the day that we held our last in-person HFMA education session, which was on March 6th, the Women in Leadership session held at MedStar Harbor Hospital. Since that time, we successfully held our October Women in Leadership session via Zoom. That session, which included an interview with Dr. Joy Drass, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for MedStar Health, followed by a panel of amazing healthcare leaders, can be found on the chapter's website. So if you missed that session, I hope you can enjoy it in the future. That's the case for all of the HFMA sessions that have been offered in the second half of 2020 to present. Each of these sessions are recorded and posted on the chapter's website. Although we're not meeting in person currently, the chapter leadership and the program committee has successfully delivered quality education via Zoom and also offered networking events to help us stay connected and laugh a little. I think we can all use some downtime and laughter during these challenging times. I hope many of you have signed up for the networking event after this session, some trivia fun. This will start at 4:30, and although it's not the same as our in-person gatherings, I know it'll still be a lot of fun. I personally miss our in-person gatherings. In-person networking was such a wonderful component of our Women in Leadership sessions. Lunch, ice cream sundae bars, happy hours. It's always my hope that these sessions can help you develop your professional network. HFMA has given me an incredible network of industry contacts that I wouldn't know if I wasn't a part of this professional organization. Volunteerism is truly the connectivity that helps us build these relationships. Speaking of volunteerism and relationships, I'd like to thank the amazing Women in Leadership Planning Committee. Jeanette Cross, current chapter president, Katie Eckert, current chapter MHA liaison, previous director, and soon to be joining the officer ranks as the chapter's incoming treasurer. Amy Hardesty, current associate director, Mary Kim, previous director, and Cheryl Nottingham, current vice president, in charge of the entire educational programming year. And what a year it's been. It's a wonderful group to work with. I appreciate their creativity and commitment, and of course, their friendship. For today, we have another great session planned. We're pleased to have Roslyn Brock, CEO, Equity Partnership Strategies, presenting today. As you may have seen in Roslyn's bio, she has led policy and advocacy for a large healthcare system while continuing to contribute to and lead volunteer causes with the primary focus of social justice and equity. Roslyn will talk more about her history and experiences during the presentation. Given Roslyn's extensive experience, there is so much that she could speak to, and her presentation is going to center around the impact of the pandemic on women in the workforce, leadership lessons for women, and Roslyn will present her social justice toolkit. During Roslyn's presentation, attendees can post questions in the Q&A icon within the Zoom application. Cheryl Nottingham and I will monitor these questions, and at the end of Roslyn's presentation, we will be able to pose those questions in addition to some other questions that the Women in Leadership Committee has prepared. I'd like you to note the following for today's presentation. During the entire program, all attendees will be in view and listen-only mode. CPE forms will be sent electronically following the session. Evaluations will also be sent electronically following the session. And you know I always beg for people to fill these out because the committee really does review every comment. We're always looking for your feedback and ideas. With that, I hope you enjoy the program. Roslyn, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to be with you today. And I am so grateful to my good friend, Katie Eckert, and to my new friends, Cheryl, Michelle, and Kalita, for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you to talk to you about my journey and how I've made it to where I am today. And so, although I can't see you on the screen, I can see that there are about 60 of you on this time with us together. And so I just want to have the opportunity to speak with you about something that's really dear to my heart. For more than 35 years, I have been an arbiter of social impact. And it's about trying to ensure that women and communities of color find their voice. And so that's what I want to share with you this afternoon about finding your voice. Next slide, Kalita. For each of us, for me, what grounds me and has grounded me on my personal journey has always been prose or quotes that will keep me moving forward. And one of them that's very near and dear to my heart is Maya Angelou. As you all know, this is March's Women's History Month. And so I've embedded and included quotes by women who I think their words will inspire you and encourage you to continue the next mile of the way. This one in particular for me speaks to the present time that we're in this unprecedented economic, health, and racial pandemic. And it's this, that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. So I'm told that there are, most of this is women in leadership for the HFMA, and there may be some men on the call. But how many of you, my sisters, have a story buried inside of you that's just waiting to be told, waiting to be shared, and just right beneath the surface is yearning to come forth and to be free? And I know many of those stories are being crafted now and carefully scaffolded during this pandemic. Next slide. I don't have to share this with any of you. You know this as intimately as I do. The pandemic has had disproportionately impacted women, and particularly women of color, in the workplace. We have experienced on this whirlwind lost wages for some who are not in the workplace now, loss of family health benefits, collapse of healthcare support, increased supervision during school hours. I can't see you raise your hand, but give me a raise your hand in a virtual environment for those of you who are experiencing having to be caretaker for both maybe parents and children in this pandemic environment and not having the social supports that you've had at your disposal heretofore. You've had increased rates of depression. The last year, third quarter, the epidemic rates of suicide, depression, mental health stress, suicide. I got calls from so many friends who were experiencing the transition and the angst of isolation in this pandemic moment. And many of you may be feeling that as well. And so we want to talk about that and unpack that a little bit. Surges in domestic violence, increased caretaking responsibilities, the digital inequities. Everyone does not have all the accoutrements, if you will, at home that they have in their professional offices. And so trying to craft and put things together at home has presented a challenge for some women who are now finding themselves having to rebuild professional careers and having to balance the juggling act of being mother, wife, and caretaker all at the same time. And if many of you, as I have been impacted by the pandemic, last year in May, the pandemic impacted my professional career. I was furloughed for 30 to 60 days. After 19 years in a C-suite position, found myself having to apply for unemployment. Wow, what a deal breaker that was to my ego, to my sentiments of who I was and where I was in my professional career. So I had to, ladies, regroup, pull it together and say, where do I go from here? How do I move forward in this period of uncertainty, not knowing how, where, when to put together. And many of you may be like me or may not be. I am a single Black female, single female head of household who's been working, charting my path up the corporate ladder, very secure in my position, I thought, until COVID-19 hit. And then it was a huge blow to me to say, wow, what do I do next? How do I move forward? What do I do? And I decided after some prayerful considerations that I would pick myself up and I could do this. I would move forward. And for many of you who are on the call, if you have Googled me or looked at my social media, you'll find that I launched. In periods of transition, many women find themselves being creative and redefining themselves. And I did just that. I created and launched a health equity company called Equity Partnership Strategies, LLC. EPS is my mother's initials. I know. But I wanted to do something that was a tribute to her and all of the things that she had instilled in me. And it was a timely moment in our history. As many of you know, May of last year, our nation was in the throes of a very traumatic racial incident with the murder of George Floyd, with the police officer having his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That incident changed the trajectory of our nation in terms of how it deals with cultural disruptions. And I think we're still living in the aftermath of that. The summer was on fire, if you will, with the marches in the streets, with unemployment, with a pandemic that was raging, folks losing jobs, feeling insecure in their homes, with their livelihoods, and in neighborhood streets. And all of that while we're trying to rebuild. So I launched. I had a branding page that put all of my information out there for the world to see. And I said that I can do this. And I'm so grateful that I am a very spiritual person. And I landed. And was able to secure contracts because I knew my worth. And that's what I want to share with you, my friends, today. Know your worth. Know what you have to contribute to the marketplace and be in a position that you're able to work with those who are able to market you, brand you, and put you forth. I was able to talk to so many friends. I reached out to Katie. I reached out to other friends that I had made. Make the network for you to give you encouragement, to give you words of counsel, and also to whom, where, and how you can move forward. Because as we think about women re-entering the workplace, oftentimes the research has found with McKinsey and others that women who have been in this transition period have not had the same type of severance packages as their male counterparts. They have found themselves having shorter and less robust benefit package in this transition period. Or women who are trying, after a period of being furloughed or with new job transfers, re-entering the marketplace at a very different place in their professional career. But what do you do? Next slide. These are some of the things that have really helped me on my more than 35-year journey, both in the professional arena and healthcare, but also in the social justice movement. I'm privileged to have the distinction of being the fourth woman and the youngest person elected to chair the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization. Ladies, that's not an easy feat for a very male-dominated organization with a board of 64. Yes, you heard me right. 64 members on a board, many of them who were much, much older than I was, and many of them who were not used to looking up to and taking leadership from a woman. But these are the things that helped me. These are the tools that I used as I led that organization for 7 years as its chairman through the most turbulent times in our nation's history. I chaired the NAACP when Trayvon Martin was killed. I chaired the NAACP when Sandra Bland to 2017. I chaired the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization when the Emmanuel Nine, do you remember the church, the 9 individuals who were killed in the AME Zion Church in South Carolina? Every summer from 2010 to 2017, I led that organization through some of the most turbulent summers with police aggressive shooting and riots in the streets, having to keep calm individuals who were ready to riot, who were ready to fight, and who were ready to disrupt the status quo. As I led that organization, first thing was to lead with integrity and authenticity, to affirm that people were in a state of angst, fear, and great concern, but also that we had to respect each other and our differing opinions about how we would move forward and respond. When you're in a leadership position, women, you know that you cannot lead scared. You have to have courage. I have a trademark mantra that courage will not skip this generation. That's what I believe in, and that's what I stand by. We must have courage, but also we must be willing to take risk and to embrace change. Many of my board members have lived in the 50s and the 60s. And as you might imagine, they may have been still living during some times that our nation had moved away from. No, we have not made all the progress that we should have in American society, but we have come a mighty long way. And we need to be able to embrace the change and the progress that have been made. I try to, as a woman in leadership, not try to lead like a man, but lead with my authentic self and give up trying to be perfect. Yes, I was going to make mistakes, and I did make mistakes, but I was clear with the people I had around me. There's a tenet that says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I did just that. I was able to pull together through teamwork with individuals to listen to them, even if they had differing opinions from me, because I needed to know how to craft strategies that they would feel that they had been heard, even though I may not have agreed with how to move forward, but I took their opinions to heart in terms of trying to move forward in the right direction on behalf of the organization that I served. You also have to stay laser focused. Know within your center how you're moving forward. And once you make a decision, be willing to stand by it. Because generally, folks are looking for women to say, oh no, if it gets hard, let's try it a different way. Or if it's not going this way, let's go a different way. I'm not saying be so hard and fast that you can't make slight changes in terms of modifications or moving forward, but you have to lead with an end goal in mind. We can't be meandering along trying to find our way. But women, be comfortable with your power. Be comfortable when you're seated at the table with others who may not share your opinions or who may be questioning whether or not you have what it takes to lead. If you have to cry or show weakness, find a way to excuse yourself. Go to wherever you need to go and pull it together so that when you come out of the room, you are leading from a position of strength and a position of confidence. I learned in B school at Northwestern University Always ask for additional information. Share information, but ask for information, because invariably there's always something when you're around the board table that is not spoken or is not talked about. But with intentionality, if you ask the question, that may be just the thing that you needed to make sure that you had a sound decision. And once you get that information, be confident in it, move forward in it, and continue to lead and lead by example. Last thing is something that was difficult for me to try to embrace, and that was to embrace conflict. Human nature is that we always want everyone to love us, to like us. But when you're a leader, release yourself from that. Everyone will not like you. Everyone will not embrace you. And you have to be confident in your own skin that the information that you are sharing, that you have done the homework, you have examined all options, and that you are making the best decision with the best information that you have, with the data that you need to move forward. And once you do that, continue to lead. Those are the lessons that I have learned on my professional journey in corporate America and on my journey working at a volunteer organization. Next slide. And so Audre Lorde, this quote resonated with me during these periods when you are in a leadership position. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether or not I am afraid. Be confident in your own skin. Know who you are. Find your voice. Stay grounded, stay focused, but keep moving forward. I think this is what Audre Lorde is talking about here. Know of the power that you have within you to move mountains, to make change, but also to have individuals to follow you. The late Ruth Bader Ginsburg says it this way, that fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that you will lead others to join you. And that is so powerful in these changing times. Last slide. Or the next slide, I'm sorry, Khalida. So I've kind of talked to you about my social justice work and the work that I've done in corporate America with the large healthcare system. What I found most important is that relationships are primary, all else is derivative. The relationships that we develop in the workplace, in the corporate boardrooms, and on our professional career paths will help us along our journey. The second thing is what my mother taught me as a young girl, is that you don't have to compromise to be recognized. Stop trying to be a man in woman's clothes. Be who you are. And you don't have to compromise those things that you believe in, those things that have value to you, because you want others to like you or you want others to see you. I have found that when you stand out, when you're willing to speak up and find your voice, people will be drawn to you. A case in point, as I was a young woman in the justice movement, I was striving to work within the organization. Never thought that I'd have the privilege to follow the Honorable Julian Bond, who is a stalwart civil rights leader. He's deceased at this now, but to lead the NAACP. But I had a male, a gentleman, to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Roslyn, I've been watching you." Who knew? He said, "I've been watching you." And he said, "You may not have everything that we need right now at this time, but I'm going to support you and I'm going to be behind you because I believe in you. And I am going to," at the time, he was the vice chair of the NAACP National Board. He said, "I'm going to step down so that you can step up." And he did that. We have to find mentors or individuals who are willing to invest in us. And you never know, as you are churning, just trying to keep one foot in front of the other, who's watching you, who is watching your work ethic, Who is watching how you are working with your teams and you're galvanizing? Who's watching how you are at your desk? Who's asking how you are, who's observing how you are asking the probing questions or making observations in a conference room or in a meeting that brings your voice into the room, and not that you're just sitting there nodding and acknowledging the contributions of others, or how you are volunteering to say, I'll take on that responsibility. I will take the lead on that. That's how you're able to distinguish yourself, not because you're saying, ooh, 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 this is me, look at me, but you're saying, I know who I am, I know my worth, and I have a contribution to make. Ladies, that incident for me was a game changer. His name was, he was a bishop at a church that served on our board, highly, highly respected. But William Graves, I will never forget him, said, I see you. I see you. And that's what I tell young people. Someone's watching what you're doing. Make sure what they see is the best reflection that you want to offer the world. The third thing is trust but verify. How many of you, when you get data and you get information, you automatically assume this is the right thing, I'm going to move forward with it? Nope. I have found that everything is not as it seems. We ought to trust the people who are giving us information, but always make sure that you verify the sources of the information and the research that you are getting, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have moved too quickly or made a decision in haste and not have everything that you needed at your disposal in order to move forward. I've talked about before, always ask for information. The next item is know your Batna. And that's a business term that I learned again at Northwestern School of Business, the Kellogg School. It is, what is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement? You've got to have, for those women of color who may be on the call and come from a church situation, you have to have your A and B selection. You've got to know, what is it that I want? But if I can't get what I want, what is it that I can live with? So what is my Batna? I'm negotiating for this, but not that I will settle, but this is what I can live with. Know that when you go into any type of negotiation and any type of meeting, because if you do not have an alternative strategy, that will not bode you well. To be inflexible with not having an alternative that you can live with, that you can still feel good about when you walk away from a situation. So always know your Batna. Have an A and a B as you move forward. The next thing is, remember that things happened before you got here. Women who are working in corporate America, that may not always be the case, but there were women who were striving to break that glass ceiling before you got there. You may not be the first person who was the one who tilled the soil in order for you to make it there, that someone would say, I see you and I want to promote you to an EVP, COO, CMO, or CEO of an organization. There were women before you who were making contributions, who were laying fertile ground with which you can grow and thrive, and not only thrive, but survive in a cutthroat, often corporate environment. I talked about this before. Keep your inner circle close. Cultivate relationships. Relationships are primary, all else is derivative. Make sure you make friends in the mentoring process who will be with you on your journey. But what people don't often remember is that you have mentors for a time and a season. There's a biblical scripture that says, to everything there's a time and a season. Your mentors who started out with you on your journey may not be the same ones who will take you all the way to the C-suite. You have to, there are times that you may outgrow your mentor. And so you look for other mentors that will help you to gain the knowledge, the expertise, and what you need to be able to make the next step. Don't always think that your inner circle, your mentors have to look like you. Strive to get a diverse group of individuals who are willing to invest in you, invest in your professional development as you move forward, and those who will be able to hand you off to the next person because they have given you all that they can give. And how you pay them back, my sisters, is that you are willing to do the next thing for the next woman who's coming and is in your sphere of influence, that you are willing to sit her down, to speak to her, to share with her about the challenges, the opportunities that you have had, and how that you can make her journey a little easier, quite possibly, than what you may have had. The next one is to maintain spiritual resources for your own mental health. I am an ordained Baptist preacher, and so I believe in the power of prayer. There are those who may believe in the power of meditation. Find a way to center yourself, particularly when the going gets rough and tough. Find a way, yoga, burning incense, whatever it is that allows you to quiet yourself. The mindless breathing and wellness. There's something to be said about that Calm app. Trust me, it works. In difficult times, just 5 minutes of take in good air, push out the bad for your spiritual wellness and healing. The next thing is to trust the process. Nobody said it was going to be easy. No one said it wouldn't be challenging. But on this journey, you can make it if you continue to have faith in yourself, and in the process, if you move forward and you do the work, and that you're able to get the job done. And the last thing that I'll just leave with you is this: enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey as best you can, because in this life, you are the only person that can make the contributions that has been assigned for your life. And in doing so, make sure that as you move forward, that you are giving it your best shot and that you leave it all on the field. And so, excuse me, at the end of the time, and whatever that time is on your journey, you can say that I did the best that I could with what I had. Last slide is this. This is really, really long, but I really, excuse me, want to have you reflect on this. And so, ladies, if you remember nothing else, I want you to remember this passage by Marianne Williamson. And it says this, very simply, that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, to be gorgeous, to be talented and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. And there is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And so let your own light shine. We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That's what I leave to you today. Knowing that you are powerful beyond measure and you have what it takes within you to change the world. Because she that rocks the cradle rules the world. And I know that there's a lot of girl power out there who are willing and ready and poised to change the course of this world. You can do it. I see you. You're ready? Let's go get it. Thank you so much.
Roslyn, thank you so much. Very inspiring. And I echo Michelle's words that we are so excited to have you with us today. And you've inspired others to ask some questions. So Michelle and I are going to rotate and make sure that we get everyone's questions answered. But thank you again. That was excellent. The first question is, how as managers can we support our staff that are impacted by the pandemic, increased personal responsibilities while maintaining equity in the workplace?
I think communication is so key. Again, we have to find opportunities and outlets to stay connected to the women in the workplace who've been impacted. And so, however, through webinars and Zoom calls, that we can continue to touch base, to touch each other. We, as just humans, are meant to be in community, not to be isolated one from another. And so our ability to stay connected, to check in on our sisters and say, how are you doing? What do you need? Can I be helpful to you in this pandemic, in this virtual environment? That's how we keep the connectedness going. And that's how we keep relationships strong, so that when we get past this, we're better as we continue to move forward with each other.
Was the next question. It's actually a theme that we had for our October session, and it's one that you touched on during your presentation: relationships, including mentors and mentorship. So we have a couple questions regarding that, and I'll sort of combine these. Please elaborate on your mentoring experience. You started to talk about that a little bit, both as a mentor and a mentee. How did you / your mentor find time? What approaches did you use? And then there was just also a general question of, how do you find that mentor, which is something that we also talked about at previous sessions, but it's a theme that comes up, I think, a lot for our attendees as they're looking to gain the value of that relationship.
I neglected to say this, and I just have to say it and be authentic. Women in a real sense are often the worst enemies to women in terms of being mentors one to the other, because we've got silos oftentimes, and we're trying to move, and we forget that our sisters on our right and our left are still in the same game with us. And so our ability to work together, to as rising tides lift all boats, that if I'm speaking truth to power on behalf of my personal situation, I'm also speaking on behalf of your situation as well. And if we are together in it, we're able to move forward. But you asked the question about mentors and mentoring. The mentors that I have had have been those who, again, as I spoke about, the bishop, the CME bishop, who said, I see you, Roslyn. There are others who I like their leadership styles. And I didn't go in and knock on the door and say, will you mentor me? It doesn't happen that way. And oftentimes that may be off-putting for some folks. But if in fact you are able to work in an environment with someone, and through the course of that relationship, you are able to say, wow, I can learn a lot from you. Let that person say, okay, well, let's try to spend some time together and I'll help you with this. Have something in mind that you want to ask that mentor to assist you with, not just, I need you to help me get to the next job promotion. It doesn't happen that way. And so for those who I have mentored, I have been in a situation, tell me what you need, how much time you need from me, because the worst thing in the world is to think that you have a mentor and they never meet with you. They never have time to talk to you. And they never are able to strategically help you kind of move on a chessboard, the kings, the queens, and to move to the next step. It is really very strategic in how career paths are made or broken in American society. They're made by who you know, not always by what you know. And that's why I'm sharing with you, that's if it means to be on corporate boards. I have examples of friends who have said, oh, I was in California and I happened to be at a Starbucks And I was sitting at the table and the CEO of XYZ Corporation came in and we struck up a conversation and started to talk. Duh, where is that going to happen in the Washington metropolitan area? Or we were at the country club and I was sitting at the table and my husband's friend's Joe said, oh, we have an open position on our board coming up. Would you like to be considered for it? Well, I'm a woman of color. I'm not a member of that country club. How do I get in the mix? How do I get there? How do I develop those types of relationships? And so that's when kind of the things that are happening now, with so much is happening in the workplace about the role of women on corporate boards, the role of people of color on corporate boards. They're much more accepting and open. Yes, it's a heavy lift, but I dare you to look and across the social media. There's so many organizations now who are organizing, looking for talented women and people of color to break those glass ceilings, who are preparing themselves for board service. Now, what does that mean? Are you ready for board service? Everybody wants to say, ooh, 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 I want to be on a corporate board. But it is a mind shift as to, one, working in C-suite or working up a corporate ladder and working for an organization, then being an independent director where you are the ones who are observing and providing the strategic directions for the corporation, not doing the management job. And so you've got to shift, and there's some skill sets that are necessary in that. So I would recommend to any of the women who are here to try to avail yourselves of some of these workshops and seminars about how to prepare yourselves in terms of your thinking and your observations, and the work that you're doing now that's going to prepare you to make the tangible contributions when you are tapped to be on a corporate board. The statistics are there, ladies. 85% of the new workers in American society will be women. They're going to be people of color and younger people who are coming into the workforce. Now is the time for you to prepare yourselves to be first in line, best in class, Six Sigma, armed, ready, and waiting to move forward, to have someone to say, the opportunity is yours now. Are you prepared to walk through those doors?
Excellent advice. And we do have a few more questions. You mentioned the conflict that you've had to deal with over the years, especially in your role as board chair. So we do have a participant asking that you mentioned conflict resolution, how important it was. And do you have any recommended training resources that you might have used for understanding and dealing with conflict?
The conflict that I've had is really that, in working in the work environment, things are said, things are done. And I, being in the justice movement, have not been one to bridle my tongue, which has not always been the best thing. But, I've tried to the best of my ability to be authentic and to be able to, with appreciative inquiry, ask questions that would allow others to know that I'm seeking for information, not for a gotcha moment. And so to resolve the conflict, it's really about having open, honest, thoughtful communication in order to kind of level the playing field. But, in some instances, people, no matter what you do, are not going to like you, not going to appreciate you, not going to value you. And then you've got to make the decision whether or not you want to move forward. There is a rising number of women across the board, not just women of color, but many women who are deciding for a host of different reasons to exit the C-suite because they have said, I've had enough. I've given it all I have. I've made a contribution, and I just really do not want to deal with this rat race anymore. And that's why, I've worked with the Kellogg School, the Women's Project, with the former dean of that school, to try to see how do you get women to stay engaged in the process, that they will continue to press their way through, find their voice, and bring other women with them who are willing to continue to work in corporate America and make the contributions with EI that are so necessary when we're looking to make changes around how corporate policies are made, how ESG is done in a corporate structure.
Roslyn, can you talk a little bit more about the bringing other people with you, especially for support of other women? Because in this program, and then we talked about networking, we talked about, trying to make those connections and, availing of ourselves of those opportunities. You gave some good examples there. If you're not in the right room, sometimes you're not going to be noticed and asked for participation in some of the things that some people may really desire. And so from bringing other people along in your experiences, do you have some more examples of that, and how the participants who are listening, how we can support, one another in growth and development?
Well, first of all, we've got to know what each other needs and wants, and to be honest with each other. So Michelle, if I'm going for a corporate board, if I'm up for an opportunity and I don't get the opportunity, or I decide to opt not to take that opportunity, I need to be willing to say, hey, I may not, I may not want this position at this time, but I know two friends. May I share with you Cheryl and Michelle's or Kalita's information for you? That happened with me, with a friend who was being considered for a corporate board. It's one that she decided not to participate in, but she said, I really appreciate the opportunity to be considered, but I've got three friends. Would you mind if I just share, their credentials with you? And, because oftentimes what's said is, we can't find any qualified women, we can't find any qualified people of color, but if you are in the room and in the space, it may not be the right opportunity for you, but why not offer three friends, two friends, to say for consideration? You never know, because one of those people that you recommend may be just the opportunity for them to break through or to move forward in their professional career. And that's why it's so important, again, that women look out for each other. It's written historically that men value titles and power. Women work for purpose. They want to make sure that the job is the right fit. It's my dream job. I'm able to make a contribution, where others, a majority, and this is generally, that men are looking for, I want the CEO title and I want X amount of dollars and I want this package. I'm good, let's go. But with a woman, we're more thoughtful. I want to make sure I do a good job. I want to make sure that I've got purpose with what I'm doing. I'm leaving a legacy. And in so doing, make sure that you know your worth. Make sure that you secure the bag. Make sure that don't leave anything on the table. And so the relationships that you have with individuals, have women's groups, this group, talk to each other about, tell me, what is your next career move? What are you looking for in your next opportunity? How do you think I can help with the networks that I have? That's the only way that women are going to really be able to advance and move forward. It happens on the golf course. It happens on the tennis courts. It happens in the lacrosse clubs, for men in the cigar bars. I don't know who women on the calls now, but I smoke a cohiba every now and then. So you've got to be able to talk the talk. Not that I want to be in a man's world, but I need to be able to, if they're talking about what cigar they smoke, I say, oh, by the way, have you tried such and such? Now, I may have smoked it once and coughed all the way through, but at least I can say I've got a name that I can share with you. And so, but just don't take yourself so seriously, and know that, I have to say this, and please, for those who may not have a spiritual center, what God has for you is for you. And no matter what is happening in the world, the universe will line up, the doors will open, and you will walk through, because you are prepared. You are powerful. You found your voice, and you're courageous, and you're ready. That's the important thing. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. And when you go, take your girls with you. Take your friends with you. You call them up to go shopping. You call them up to let's go to get a massage, let's go get our nails done. Call them up to have a conversation about the next career move. How do you move forward? Play the chess game. Who do you need to make sure that you get in front of with this manager, this VP, this supervisor? What project is coming up that I'm going to recommend that you lead, that you're a part of, and that you provide a presentation for, that you're able to get in front of people? I had an incident earlier in my professional career that I was told I didn't unpack the car when I came to work. I didn't unpack the car. I didn't know what that meant, because people see you and they make assumptions about you. My entire professional career, I've been working in the justice movement. So I worked the 80 plus hours during the week, and on the weekends, I was working with and volunteer leadership with the NAACP. So I had really 2 full-time jobs. So when I was coming to work, I was hard at the game, doing what I needed to do. Out of there, I'm on to an NAACP community meeting. I'm talking about what's happening in education, healthcare, environment, criminal justice, and the whole 9 yards. However, my friends around me, colleagues, said I didn't unpack the car. I didn't sit and chit chat. I wasn't at the water cooler. I didn't say, hey, how was your weekend? What's happening? What's happening? That they saw me at a distance. They knew what I was doing. They valued the work that I was contributing, but they didn't know Roslyn. They didn't know who I was. Again, in relationship, people give to in terms of philanthropy, and people promote who they like, who they know, and who have similar interests to them. And think about it. It may not feel okay, but who do you want working next to you? Someone that you know nothing about? Or someone that you can say, he's a great guy. She's a great gal. I know her. Our kids go here, they go there, And so I had to learn, take a minute, Roslyn, unpack the car. When I come in, no, I wasn't being phony. I wasn't, putting on fronts or airs, but I took the time, say, how are you doing today? I let my guard down and said that it's okay to be human. Take the mask off. Like I'm working so that you will know I belong here. Shake it off. Be your authentic self. It will draw people to you. The light in you meets the light in them. 18 inches between heart and head, 18 inches. And a lot of what people do is about seeing and feeling. I think Cheryl's a great girl. I like that, Michelle. Kalita's wonderful, and I absolutely love Katie. We're from different walks of life, but we bonded together. And whatever Katie needs, she knows I'm her girl, and I'm going to be there for her. And now I've got a whole group of friends with you who are on this call, who, as we move forward, that we're connected in this space because we're women. We're powerful women, and we're women who are willing to make a difference and being willing to make an impactful difference on behalf of what we do in contributions to our organizations, to our societies, to our families, and to the global village that we live in.
Positive feedback. Thank you so much. And the themes of that always being, to one of your earlier points, just building those relationships and using those relationships to help to support one another and give each other opportunities. So thank you for all of that amazing feedback. Cheryl, over to you for the next question.
Yeah, I'm excited about this question because I tend to be an introvert. And so the question is, I think connections are so important, and to stay connected is important, which can be much easier for extroverts. What advice do you have for those that may be more introverted?
For those who may be introverted, find a space where you can, on one issue, push yourself to get out just a little bit. And so yours may not be making that public presentation in a boardroom. but yours may be that I'm willing to do the research, gather the data to get it ready, that you become an integral part of the process, and that your contribution cannot go unsung, because without you, it never would have happened. So that's how you find your own gifts in those that, and a way to make a contribution in that, because everybody's not going to be chatty catty like me, you know. So it's like it doesn't happen that way. But there are opportunities for you to find out what's needed. And that's why it's so important for you to observe the environment. Always do the environmental scan to know who's in the room, who's not in the room, who should be in the room, and what is your place in the room. And find out how you can make a difference. It really, ladies, is a chess game in terms of being strategic and how you are playing for the long game, not just tomorrow, next week, next month, but your game have an end goal in mind. That's always how I live my life. I want to say, where do I want to be, by this time next year? And then what do I need to do in the ensuing days to make sure I get there? Make sure I have milestones and benchmarks. If I hit it and I'm ready. If not, course correct, recalibrate, GPS it, and keep moving, because there's more than one way to get there. My mother always say, Roslyn, there's more than one way to solve a problem. It's not only your way. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because with creativity, with ingenuity that women bring to the conversation, and the creativity and the life-giving that comes from within you, that emanates from within you, you can think outside the box very, very quickly. Use those gifts in the workplace in terms of meeting any strategic challenge that you may have. And I'm talking intellectually. You know how to make a meal on a dime. You know how to quickly, when you're coming in late from work and you've got to have dinner on a table for the kids and make sure that they get what they need and in the bed, their homework done. So time management is on your side. You know how to be creative in these ways. Use those same skill sets and leverage them in the workplace to your advantage.
Now, as you were talking about that, I think it's so important, especially as you've already pointed out, and I think has always been the case, more so for women, and I'm sure there's some shared responsibility with our male counterparts as well, but more so for women who tend to be the caretakers. And as we've already, discussed during the pandemic, certainly taking on even more roles as possibility of home educator and so many other areas of responsibility. But what you had just mentioned about making sure that you take the time to set your goals and your own milestones in order to sort of be in charge of your own plan. If you know what you want, how are you going to get there? And so sometimes we're working so daggone hard, and that's a good thing. And we want to contribute and we want to be noticed, but sometimes you have to take a step back and pause and be like, okay, but if I want to get there, what do I need to do? And I find that so oftentimes within myself, I'll just work and not take a pause to plan. So I really appreciate you highlighting that. And then of course, using your connections to, to be able to get you where you want to be. So I appreciate that.
Michelle, and also in that same vein, ladies, don't be afraid to, in moving forward, move over to move up. Sometimes we think, hey, I can't go over. I just got to keep going up. Sometimes on this landing, you're here, but this landing gives you a different view from a different perch. And that may be what you need to continue to move up the next mile of the way. And if CEO is not your stick, why have someone drive you to go in that direction? You do what's best for you. And wherever that destination is for you, that's where you chart your course and that's where you move forward. Because as women, we know that I'm going to give 100% today, but every day is not 100%. Today may be 75%, and that is all I have to give today. And that's my 100%. Be comfortable in that. Try to guard against this superwoman complex that you can do everything. And so, Cheryl, I talked about that introvert introvert trying to find something, you also don't want to be the extrovert that every time something comes up, that you're the one that's raising your hand. It's not, oh, give it to her, give it to her, give it to her. No, it's being strategic. Those things that are life-giving to you, that you believe is on your trajectory, that you have planned, Michelle, mapped out, and it is moving you in the right direction, or it will give you the skill sets you need to make the next move, or put you in front of, beside, or in parallel with those individuals who can help you do that. Now, we all know in this life, none of us does anything alone. No one makes it by themselves. Everyone has someone who has helped them to succeed, to open doors, close doors, safeguard them, help them course correct. When they make a mistake, brush them off and say, okay, get back up, get back out there. You can do this. I had a life change in my life. I'll share, I'm 55 years old. At 30, I was widowed. Married at 27, widowed at 30. My God, never thought that my life would change. Was working and I just couldn't go to work. I was a program officer at the Kellogg Foundation and was just like at my wit's end, thought my world had ended. My husband was an economist, died of a blood clot to his lungs. We'd gone jet skiing in Florida, mishap at a hospital, but I called my boss and I'm like, I can't go on. And she said, Roslyn, you will go on. You get up and I want you in this office within the hour. You will be here. I got up, got dressed, and I was in the office. And it's what I needed.
It's what you needed.
It's what I needed. It's that tough love. But that's the same woman who was a mentor for me. And I would watch her every move as she navigated the meetings at the Kellogg Foundation. So when it was my turn, I'm a 27-year-old. She had been the state health department director in the state of Michigan. I can do what she does. Not. I didn't have the street credibility. I did not have the gravitas and the earned respect and experience, because just because she could do it didn't mean I could do it. And so that's also what we have to learn, is that on this journey, put things in your toolkit, have your mentors be there. And she said to me, and I said, well, I said it just like you did. I did what you did. And she said, but you're not me. You have to be you. And you have to earn the respect of those with whom you work, with whom you want to lead, and then they will follow you. It helped me when I became chairman of the NAACP. When they asked the question, you're too young, you can't do this. And I asked them, how old is dedication? How old is commitment? And when you tell me that, then you can tell me that I can't sit it and lead this organization forward.
I like that.
So again, or I had a board member tell me, this is not a beauty contest. This is for real stuff, civil rights and stuff. And I'm like, okay, bring it on. Mm-hmm. So again, the intimidation factor as well is that this is too big for you. Right. You can't handle this. If you have within you that you can make it and you're prepared, there will be, I'll say this, you will never have 100% everything that you need. But what you do have is the ability to go out and get the information. You know how to make a call. You know how to do research. You know how to lean on your network to get you everything that you need. And so do not shy away from opportunities because you say, wow, I don't know everything I need to know here. You know just enough in order to get in front of someone and say, I can do this job because I'm resourceful. I can get the information. I can move this agenda. You got to believe it before anyone else can. So you got to believe it before you can see it.
it comes to some of your points regarding that authentic self and the confidence and to be bold. And sometimes that does, take time and some coaching as well. Great points. There's a question that came in about appreciating that you proudly admitted that you made mistakes, as we all do. And can you share some of those examples of how you owned that, sort of dealt with that in your circumstance and brought people with you just to move on? Because we do want to be able, we don't, the perfectionist that you mentioned earlier, none of us are. So, how do we authentically made that mistake, own it, move on? What experiences can you share and further advisement regarding that?
It was a tough lesson, the trust but verify. And getting information to make a presentation that had a big dollar ticket amount on it. And, very quickly thinking that you have this information, that the people have done the work that needed to be done. And I made a decision relying on some bad information. Thank God it was not detrimental to the organization or to my professional credibility, but I had to own it. I had to say, wow, I missed it. I missed it on this one. But it was a lesson learned, a teachable moment that I know that from now on, I've got to look at the data and look at it again. And I can't just trust that someone has done what I need to ensure that it's done. And so it is not that that is the downfall for folks in the political arena and also in corporate America, when they get too high to think that they cannot fail. And then they think that they can cut corners. People will trust you if they believe that, one, that you're vulnerable, but that you will own your mistakes, but then also that you'll continue to, move them forward. It is accepting, acknowledging, and then moving forward. And then telling them how you will move forward. What is the lesson learned in it? Not to say it never happened, not to sweep it under the rug and say, oh, I didn't know, was not aware. Don't do that. Own it. Just like you own the space that I can do this, own the space of vulnerability. Women do that better than men in many respects. And it's not always, Michelle and Cheryl, what you say is how you say it, that people believe you. And it's not weeping and wailing, oh my God, I don't believe I did this. It is that, the information was not here. I didn't make the right call, but we've course correct and we are going to get out of this. And this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And you've got a plan for it. It is not of gnashing of teeth and, wringing of hands. It's like, and we're going to do it together. People like strong leadership, but people like to know that their leaders are human as well. So I share that with you.
Beautiful. We've talked a lot today about relationships and connections, and I think this next question is good in the environment that we're in. What advice do you have for connections in this more virtual world?
It's tough in the virtual world. We still can't, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Again, I share that we are made to be entities of touch and in community. And so the best that we can do that is picking up the phone, calling, and checking in. These Zoom calls you can be Zoomed out, WebEx out, team meeting out, and everything. But as you know, if you have family members and elderly family members, just to see their face, hear their voice, it makes a difference. And so the networking, find a time, a standing appointment that you can just pop in, check in, and say how are things going. And if and where the time is available and safely can be done, socially distanced, try to meet people out in a park or for lunch. I know there's still people who are in the office who are gathering every other day, or one comes in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that. but find a way to have the team meetings. At my previous employer, we found time to just in the opening moments of our conversations, what's happening with you? What's going on with you? Everything can't just be about the stressors at work. Let me know what's happening with you at home. How are you coping? How are things going? People believe what you say. People believe how you make them feel more than what they hear from you, what you say to them. And so if I were to call you, Michelle, 2 or 3 weeks from now, it's like, hi, Michelle, it's Roslyn. It was so great to meet you on the call with HFMA. I just was just checking in to say hi. How things going with you? Things moving forward? You was like, wow, I didn't know she called. That's cool, And it's like, well, what did I do? What did I say? And Cheryl has such an engaging, bright smile and cheery personality. I can't believe she's an introvert. But even so, it's the connectedness. Again, as I shared, our ability to be in community and to relate one to the other is so very important. And that extends across racial lines, across religious lines, orientation, or age groups. If you believe that I am sincere and I believe that you are as well, we can solve a myriad of our society's problems. It's really like, can't we all just get along? Can't we I find the God in you, you find the God in me. Let's have a conversation. Let's work it out together.
Such a great approach. And there's a comment actually that came through that says, it's important for women extroverts to partner with strong women introverts. We can make great teams. So it sort of goes along the lines of, us, networking and partnering together. But I can tell you on my work team and my HFMA family, I have checked in with introverts when I want to react to something very quickly that is comfortable to me. And I say that, and it's Cheryl and Katie are great examples, because Katie will be the first one to say, oh, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Can we handle it this way? And I'm like, oh, okay.
I will be your voice, Cheryl. You will be my thinking, my thoughts. Like, okay, let's just breathe for a moment. I have an accountability partner. That's critical. I have an accountability partner. I have been told that I have a poison pen. If I put pen to paper, watch out, because here I come. And so I have a colleague who, when I'm ready to write something, I write it out because I'm just fast and furious, like, la, 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 la. And I read it to him like, no, I don't think I would say it like that. And she would help me kind of soften it, still say the same thing, has the same impact, but with less bite, less punch. And so you need those kind of people that keep you sane, but often also keep you off a ledge as well. And so that is a great approach to partner one with the other. So if Cheryl's like, I just want to be able to say this and do this, there may be opportunities for that voice to speak up, speak with, not on behalf of, but speak with Cheryl in amplifying her own voice. Because I'm a little leery of folks who want to speak on behalf of folks. I think that we all have our authentic voice, and we've got to find that voice within us. And that voice is just here waiting for us to just open our mouths and speak forth.
That is true.
And it will come. It's in your belly. It's there.
Cheryl, so we're at 4:14, and so we should be rounding up to the last questions right now. Do you want to do a last scan to make sure that we didn't miss anything? And then Cheryl, I'll hand it over to you for maybe the final question if there's nothing left in the chat. And I just want to say to those who have posed questions and even have inserted their comments in there, it's been really great to see your thoughts and comments even to the questions or to things that Roslyn has been saying to us. So that's greatly appreciated. So Cheryl, is there a last question that you want to pose? I can see her scanning well. We don't want to miss anything. You notice that I put that on her to do the last scan so that I didn't.
Sure, everything else. But I guess one of the questions that we had talked about in the committee is is what were the leadership characteristics of your mentors that most motivated you?
That they were women who were truth seekers, but also who was willing to bring other women with them. And that has been my legacy at organizations, that I am a mentor for young women and young leaders in their space. And that is my responsibility. Don't do anything for me, but you pay it forward by how you help shape and groom the next generations. Because I don't believe necessarily that leaders are born, they're shaped and they're developed. And it's at your hands that you are able to do that. And your ability to seed into the future strong leaders who are grounded with, again, spiritual resources, ability to be comfortable in their own skin, and be authentic leaders, but also ones that know their worth and are courageous in the space. I think that is the best contribution that we can leave to corporate America and to our world.
Thank you.
Great. So Roslyn, any other closing comments for this group from you? And then after any of your comments, then I'll have a couple of different announcements, and then we're going to transition the group to trivia, and Cheryl will talk about that. But Roslyn, please, closing comments
I
from you.
just wanted to have the opportunity to share. I think there was a question in our group about the role of Black women over this last electoral cycle and the role that they have played. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It is the one that the First Lady, not the First Lady, I'm sorry, Madam Vice President is a member of, and I was privileged to be the International Connection Chair, if you will, of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, that led that grassroots GOTV, Get Out the Vote campaign. And one of the women who placed the ad in the New York Times demanding from the Democratic Committee and the presidential nominee at that time, Joe Biden, to consider a Black woman to be the Vice President of the United States. And so it is, again, leveraging the network. It is knowing your worth and value to an institution and to an organization, and galvanizing women from all walks of life to come and move forward. But again, remember, as I shared with you, remember that there were those who came before you. There are many women who came before Kamala Harris to sit in that position, and who have aspired to even greater positions. But at this time, the universe lined up and it was her time. And I will share that with you on this call, that when the universe lines up, Black, white, brown, yellow, women across every spectrum of society will come, and as legions will be supportive of you in your purpose-driven life and how you move forward to make your social impact on the world. And so just, I would dare say to you, continue to search for your purpose and how you'll make a difference at your organization. And if not there, then the next organization. Know your worth, keep moving forward, but always be courageous, because courage must not skip this generation. Peace, grace, and power, my sisters.
Thank you, Roslyn. So great to have you with us. And again, you've mentioned Katie's name, and she, Katie's a member, Katie Eckert, of our Women in Leadership Committee. She mentioned you as we were brainstorming for our next presenter and speaker, and we were energized that moment that she was speaking of you. And our only concern was that you wouldn't be able to say yes, because once she had presented you to us, our only concern was, oh my goodness, what if she's not available? Because now we just want to hear from her. So thank you so very much for your time and for sharing such an informative and thought-provoking presentation, and just your feedback and comments. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Berkeley Research Group again for their sponsorship, and thank all the sponsors of the HFMA Maryland chapter, because our sponsors are so aligned with us and just so important to the chapter and to all that we do for our membership. I'd also like to thank once again the wizard behind the curtain, as we call her, Kalita Burton, who is our Zoom expert and also just takes the time to sort of ease all of us who are pretty panicked prior to these presentations. Lauren Rose was also back up today offering her support, which we appreciate. And a couple of other reminders, CPE forms again will be sent electronically as well as evaluations. Please take the time to fill those out because again, we do really read all of those comments and we want your feedback and suggestions for future programs, networking opportunities, and the like. And so now I'll hand it over to Cheryl Nottingham, who's going to talk a little bit about upcoming HFMA programs, as well as transition us to our very brief break and then trivia, which we're hoping that many people can stay on and attend and have some fun. And I'll try not to get too competitive. Cheryl?
Well, I too would like to echo Michelle's comments. Roslyn, that was excellent. Thank you so much for being with us. And Kalita, thank you. I know you're there. Thank you so much. And Michelle, thank you for your leadership and the rest of the Women in Leadership Committee. On April 16th, we do have a physician event. And so we will be discussing physician practice and physician financial impacts on healthcare, and Kathy Zito and her team is leading that. And so April 16th, save the date. So we're really excited to have our third virtual networking event immediately following this event. You can join anytime between now and 4:30. Charm City will be running the trivia event. So all you do is, if you saved your Outlook, there is a link in there, or if you go to the HFMA Maryland website, we have also put the link there just in case anybody had any issues. So when you got your registration and you loaded it to your Outlook calendar, that link should already be there. But if you have any difficulties, please visit our website and it is there as well. So if you'd like to take a short break right now, we will start at 4:30. So thank you all.
To everyone. Thank you, Roslyn.
Thank you so much again.
Absolutely.
Great evening, everyone.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.